Welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast. I'm Christy Peel. Today's guest is proof that it is never too late to reinvent yourself. Gerald Stratford became known as the Veg King, got a book deal, and even modeled for Gucci when he turned to using social media for good in his 7th decade of life. Gerald has inspired people around the world with his authenticity, positivity, and passion for growing giant vegetables. Gerald, welcome to the podcast.
Good day.
Good day. I feel like I should talk with an accent, but I will not because that would be horrifying for you and everyone listening.
Oh, you've got a good accent.
The Minnesota accent, most people don't love it, but I like yours much better.
You've got to be proud of your accent because that's your heritage.
There it is. I love that. Thank you. A boost for the day, which is positivity. That's why people have fallen in love with you online. And it started with these posts and videos about your passion for growing giant vegetables. Talk about how that all started.
I've been a gardener all my life. And let me get this right. 10 years ago, Elizabeth, my partner, and myself, we decided we would move away from a little village just outside Oxford City, the university city. And we ended up just the Oxford side of the Cotswold Hill in a little village called Milton under Wychwood, a small bungalow. We both love gardening, a very, very small front garden, but massive back garden. And right up until then, I've always been quite a heavy fisherman, catching big fish and winning competitions, etc. But I was getting bored with that, and always being a gardener, I thought, wonder if I could use the same skills to grow a giant veg as I could catching a giant fish. Oh, you can. It's very similar. And we had a blank canvas, and so we designed the garden, which has got flowers, a little bit of grass, a yard area, and a big chunk of it for vegetables. And I've just over the last year or two filled it up. There's not an inch goes by, an inch of garden which hasn't got something growing in it.
And how did you translate that from a hobby, a passion, to something that people all over the world are following and are learning from and are inspired by?
Well, when it first happened in May 2020, it sort of scared me because, I'm not an actor, I'm not a model, though I like clothes, etc., and like growing things. But I just took the bull by the horns, as we say over here, and got on with it. And the more people that wanted to get involved with me, the more I wanted to get involved with you. And my glass is always half full, never half empty. And, I never say no. I say yes, and then we can work on it.
I love that. I love that. And your attitude is remarkable because you've applied it to growing things. But even before we started recording and we were just chit-chatting and you looked out the window and you said there was going to be a storm, and some people in your profession, I can't say profession, with a passion for gardening, they get really worried when there's a lot of weather coming their way because it can damage the delicate leaves and it can damage the vegetables. And you said, I can't control it, basically. And just now you said the glass is always half full. Did you learn how to live with that mindset, Gerald? Because I think it is the difference between someone who can find joy in all things and someone who complains a lot.
My father was Mark, And he was very ill when I was born, and he died when I was only 19. But in those few years, he taught me so much about life in general, not just gardening, but about discipline, not to get over anxious, never ever get, he never liked the word fanatic, because when I was about 12, I was becoming very fanatical regards fishing and catching fish, and it was taking over my life. And Dad said, never ever become a fanatic, son, because it get in the way of your enjoyment. And I said yes and forgot about it. But as I've got older, I started to really understand what he said. And that word fanatic spreads right across the world, doesn't it? Some of the horrible things happening in this world at the moment is through fanaticism, and we don't want that. But let's just try hard with a smile on our face.
That's so good. That's so good. Try hard with a smile on your face. And ultimately, you can't control the outcome. You can have a lot
No,
of desire and you can have a lot of goals, but it doesn't matter if we're talking about the fish or vegetables or life. You really can't control the outcome, but you can
no.
control your attitude.
10 years ago, no, a bit more, 10, 11 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And that shook me rigid. I really thought, crikey, is that it? But I thought a lot over a few weeks of how to challenge this problem. And gardening helped me overcome my fear of cancer. And about 6 years after my diagnosis and treatment, which I had, the oncologist phoned me up out of the blue. I was in the garden saying, Gerald, we don't need to see you anymore. I could have kissed him if he was there. And, my garden really helped me through that.
Because it gave you a different place for your energy, because talk to me more about why the garden got you through that difficult and really scary time.
Well, you take tonight, about 1 hour before it gets dark, I go round all the garden and check if it needs water. We're in a very hot period at the moment, but I don't waste water. I'll only give it water if it needs it. And when I'm doing this, I am not thinking about my health, Elizabeth's health, my children, Donald Trump and Iran, the trouble there, Ukraine and Russia. I'm not thinking of any of that when I'm gardening, which frees my mind up to just be gardening.
That's so great, especially because all of the things that you mentioned, you can control a bit your health because you can control some of the things that you do with your body, but you can't control whether or not cancer cells start growing. That's outside of your control. Elizabeth's health, and certainly the war and massive world global issues. You are but one man with but one vote, but with one perspective. But gardening gives you control and joy and happiness. And a lot of people
Yeah.
don't have that.
I learned so much when COVID hit the world, because there again, I really thought, is that it? I was 72. Are we finished? But I took the bull by the horns again and got stuck into various gardening projects. And it helped me through that problem. And whenever I have a problem or there's some illness in the family, you know, and it's sort of out of my control. I will go into the garden to relieve the pressure. You know, I won't just sit down and stare at the television or things like that, because I don't feel that that helps. Because at the end of the day, I'm just an ordinary man, an ordinary 77-year-old Englishman.
With a pretty extraordinary social media following.
Thank you.
Having your perspective and how you live your life is one thing, but you translated that into teaching people about vegetables, which ultimately, really at the core of it, is about positivity, authenticity. And your videos are pretty simple. It's you talking about vegetables, talking about your perspectives. Why did that catch fire? Why do you think that people, when they have influencers, you know, with flashy cameras and lights and makeup and filters and production crews, and you're, as you said, a simple man, a simple Englishman with a garden, and you have more followers than many people who spent a lot of money with production companies to try and buy followers?
That's a hard one. But at the beginning, you know, in when was it, February, March 2020, I had a friend up north of the country, and he said, Gerald, have you ever thought of going on social media? You know, there's one or two of us, we talk about gardening, etc. And, you know, put a few photographs on. And I said no. But I put the phone down after we had finished our chat, thought about it. Now, I'm not a technophobe. I'm not a find modern computers and cameras. I try to overcome the problems, but it is hard. And I have to use Elizabeth is very good, and Elizabeth's son, my nephew, is also very good. And he said, Gerald, I'll get you on Twitter, now X. And we done that, and I posted one or two photographs a week and got a few following, and I started enjoying it. And it was going to be garden only. No politics, no sport, religion, nothing, just me in our garden. And in May, I posted some potatoes I'd grown. Nothing special. And it was a nice sunny day in May. And the phone started pinging and pinging and pinging and pinging. And I didn't know how to silence then. So I hid the camera in the bedroom. And at about 4 or 5 o'clock, I went into the bedroom. It was still pinging. And I'd gone from 96 followers to 9,000. And so I thought, I got to phone up Stephen and he'll have an answer for this, because I thought something was going wrong. And he come back a few minutes later and said, Gerald, you've gone viral with your spuds, the potatoes.
The viral spuds.
Yeah. And from that day, it's just been a juggernaut ride, getting more and more. And I must say, because I was a professional in life, in industry, so I've learned a little bit about human life, and I thought, right, I'm going to treat this as professional as I can. And it was just Elizabeth and myself. Elizabeth, we got two iPhones, and she would take a photograph, and then I would post them. And then we got to doing little videos. And last August, it was just getting too much for us. You know, I'm 77, Elizabeth is 83, and we thought we got to get some help. Now, I knew a lad who's a professional videographer, and we spoke to him, and he said, I'll come on board. And we employ him now to do, he comes up once a month. I still do a little bit of video work, but he takes over all the business so I can just do my garden to keep it going.
And that's what gives you joy. Doing
Yeah,
things that don't give you joy, like trying to figure out cameras, kind of defeats the purpose of your mindset and your message.
yeah. I mean, I've just bought myself a GoPro, and I pick it up and I have a go, and I'm struggling, but I will get there.
And you're learning new things, right? And that's part of life that
That's it.
has no age limit.
It keeps me young.
What you've talked about, Gerald, resonates with so many of the guests that we've had on this podcast about how people are using social media for good. And folks like you, that their intention wasn't to grow a large social media presence. Their intention was to share what they're doing and to put it out there, and maybe someone else can learn from it, maybe not. They love to do it. And then suddenly it catches like wildfire. And based on the conversations that we've had, using social media for good is all about being authentic and showing up and not having any expectations about going viral. And sometimes it just happens. So for you, you have this large channel, you got a book deal out of it, you modeled for Gucci. What else do you want to do besides learn the GoPro?
I've always dreamed people of our age, we look upon television differently than the younger generation. The younger generation, correct me if I'm wrong, look at the computer, which I'm looking at now, and the iPhone and everything about it with, you know, and television is not so important. But I have got a dream of getting more involved with television. I have been on television, but I have a dream of doing something within television and my garden.
I love this. How are we going to make this happen, Gerald?
Oh, I really don't know. It needs, I'm not a person for going out and asking people. All this has happened with people coming to me. And I've got so much more to give, God willing, to talk about my garden, help people grow things. I have so many questions every day, of my life, and I try and answer all of them, sometimes 2 or 3 hours a day. Because if somebody has found the time and energy to ask me how to grow something, I feel it's rude for me not to try and answer it. Even if it's just, sorry, I can't help you today, rather than just blanket.
And if you could tell people one thing about growing, people who are listening and are thinking, yeah, that's great, Gerald, but I don't have the time. I can't grow anything. I can just go to the grocery store. For you, it's not really, if I'm understanding correctly, for you, it's not really about the vegetables as much as it is about what it represents and what it allows. Because sure, you can go to the grocery store and buy whatever you need. But for you, it's more about doing something for yourself and having joy and challenging yourself and learning something every day. Is that correct?
Well, I was brought up in a different era to a lot of you people.
Okay, I'm old, Gerald. I love that you keep saying you
No,
people in a
no,
different generation, but come
you're
on now.
spring chicken.
Spring chicken. Oh, I love you, Gerald.
Every parent, even if they didn't like gardening, had a plot and grew vegetables, etc. because they had to feed their family. There was no supermarkets, there was local shops, etc., but there was no major supermarkets then. And from, say, the mid-60s right up to now, supermarkets have taken over. And with that, so many people have said, why should I garden when I can just go and buy? And they're in a position now where they can buy. So I've got something which a lot of you haven't got, that gardening skill, that ability to grow things. Because we had to when we were young, me and my brothers and sisters. My father taught me when I was 5 years old, how to grow a radish. And I've been growing them ever since. I will never starve because I can grow something. If every supermarket stopped tomorrow, I would still live because I've got the ability to grow and make things. And my partner's the same. She grew up in the same era.
And there's something about that mindset too. Even community gardens are so popular, and oftentimes for folks who come from backgrounds where they've had trauma in their life or they've had abuse, and teaching folks just that they are good and they are capable of growing something provides a confidence and provides just sometimes people lose that fire to know that they are capable of doing good things and that they can make a difference, and you can grow enough that you can give to someone else. That is such a gift.
Do you know what an allotment is?
Yes.
Well, I have an allotment. I use it as an overspill because my garden, though it's a big garden, I still need more space. And I go up to that allotment and I give so much away. Like from April until June, it's the planting season. And every time I'm at allotment, I'm giving plants away, or somebody will hear that I got some cabbage or courgette or something, and there's a knock on the gate, and they want, and I don't take money for it. Because I want them to be successful. I want them to grow and be successful, and then they'll grow their own the following year. I just talk and talk. I'm terrible.
How fun. And there are, as you mentioned, children, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, whatever you want to call folks, that really don't know that you can grow your own things. And if you asked probably even my children at a certain time in their life when they were younger, they would, if I say, where did potatoes come from? They might have said, the grocery store instead of the ground. And it is really important for people to know that they can sustain themselves and sustain their families. And for me, it was flowers. After I lost my job and was sort of a little bit lost in my life, I took to growing flowers. And it allowed me to be creative. It allowed me to remember that I could do good work. And it reminded me that it's slow. There are things outside of your control, and you can want to get the next job, but Mother Nature, the seasons, they've got their own timetable and their own schedule. And being in the dirt does teach you that and remind you that you can think you've got your own schedule going, but turns out you can only control so much. So it's so valuable to understand what you can control and what you can't control. And the earth teaches us that.
Elizabeth is very good with flowers and seeds. She's magic with collecting seeds and looking after them, and then the following year seeing them germinate. And a lot of what she's got is rubbing off on me now. because I want to do what Elizabeth has done, extra to my planting skills.
So you could grow giant roses and giant plants.
At one time, I thought you go in a shop, vegetable shop, the vegetable section of a supermarket, bags of carrots and bags of potatoes and bags of all sorts of vegetables. And you take a bag of carrots. Now, that £2 bag of carrots, I won't talk kilos, I'll talk pounds and ounces.
For our American friends, thank you.
Yeah. And half of that bag is dumped. Half of that bag of potatoes, half of that bag of carrots don't get used. It's very rare that the whole bag gets used. And that's a waste. So if I could grow one big carrot, which would last a week, it would be better than having a bag, because that one carrot keeps so much longer and fresher. And another thing, Christy, don't ever wash the soil off of a root vegetable.
Why not?
Because that soil protects the vegetable and makes it last longer. The second you wash the soil off of a potato or a carrot or a parsnip, any root vegetable, oxidization starts happening, the rotting process. So once you washed it, it will not keep as long as one with the dirt, the soil on it.
I did not know that.
And that is why supermarkets wash everything. They might tell you because the customer likes it that way, but they do it because they know that half of it get wasted and they keep selling more and more and more.
I learned something from you. Well, I knew I would learn more than just one thing, but I do think that that's the mindset of going back to the days when you grow what you eat and you eat what you grow. That is why I think farmers markets are so popular. I don't remember them being what they are now. And it's people love to buy from local growers and they like to buy local and they want to eat in season.
A fine example is I grow lots of potatoes. Now, I can grow enough potatoes that in September I dig them up, dry them off on a nice sunny day, and then store them in bags, 44 pound bags, 20 kilo bags. And those potatoes will feed Elizabeth and myself from September right through to the following May when the new potatoes are just coming in. So we never ever have to buy potatoes.
That's
And
impressive.
that is because we never ever wash them. The only time we wash a potato is immediately before we eat it.
Wow. I didn't know this. People are probably listening thinking, Christy, I can't believe you didn't know this. Come on. I had no idea. This is so interesting.
That is true. I'm not sort of telling stories. That
I
is so
believe you.
true.
I believe you. And that's, I think, one of the things about your social media channels is that it's not complicated and it's not the latest and the greatest. The reason that it's connecting with people is because it is these truths that never go out of style, that never become replaced because it's just true, whether it was in 1950 or now or 100 years from now. Dirt and potatoes, the basics are the same.
Yes, over the last sort of 18 months, whenever I go out, I start getting people wanting selfies and things like that. And I'm slightly embarrassed because I don't look upon myself as anything different than yourself or my neighbours. We're all friends together, and it's it's an awkward one, isn't it? This word stardom, and I just want to spread my happiness. There's too much doom and gloom in the world.
Keep spreading it, Gerald. And one of the reasons that you make people happy, not just your vegetables and your attitude, but sometimes it's your wardrobe. Look at what my team got for me.
Uh,
A purple cabbage bucket hat.
Where did you get that from?
Online. They found it online. I have someone who's listening named Lauren, loves your content, and she knows about your outfits, and she fancies herself. Well, she doesn't fancy herself a gardener. She is a gardener and very good with growing things. And she thought that I needed to have one of these if I was going to talk to you.
That all started with Alexander McQueen.
Tell us more.
At the beginning, in 2021, every evening after dinner, Elizabeth and myself would sit down and just go through all the messages. And there was a message saying, we would like to talk to you. And Alexander McQueen. And straight away I thought, yeah, I know that name. Like I said earlier, I like fashion.
Famous designer, if you don't know who that is.
Yeah. And we returned the call, and then we had a Zoom, and that was one of the first Zooms I'd ever done.
Wow.
And then there was another Zoom, and then a film crew and lots of people descended on the house and filmed me. And the cabbage hat and fleece was designed, made by McQueen, and there's a famous designer who specializes in camouflage, and that hat you've got is a cross section of a cabbage. If you get a cabbage, red cabbage in your case, and cut it across and open it up, that's the pattern you get.
It doesn't fit over my headphones very well, but you get the picture. It's very stylish. I'm sure Alexander McQueen would be thrilled that I have a knockoff.
That's lovely.
Gerald, it has been a joy to talk to you. I love to see how people are using social media for good and how they are spreading their passion. But for you, it's really about the joy and the positivity. And your story is just such a powerful reminder that purpose doesn't have an expiration date. Just like a potato covered with soil, it can keep on living. And you're spreading that positivity. I'm cheering for you, for your garden, and for your messaging and your social media. And I sure hope that someday, just like Julia Child once did, you get your own TV show and we can cheer for you from across the pond. Thank you for joining us on the podcast, and I'll keep watching you grow things online.
Thank you, Christy. It's been a pleasure. It really has. I've enjoyed this one.
Thank you. Me too.